Hey, welcome back to Weeby Kids. I'm out in my little garden today. It's a tiny little spot that we've got, but somewhere that we love to go and sit. We love wildlife and we love birds, and we're always trying to attract birds and wildlife into our garden for us to watch. There are a number of different ways that you can attract wildlife into your garden, but the most successful way of attracting wildlife into your garden is by adding water. So for many years I always wanted a pond in my garden, but I never thought I had enough space. But then I discovered micro ponds. So micro ponds are small little ponds that we can add to our garden that can encourage wildlife to come in, hedgehogs or birds or frogs. You just never know. But today in Weeby Kids, we're going to show you how to make a micro pond. So the materials that we're going to use today are going to include a container. It could be a baking tray, or here I'm using a sandwich box, a trowel, some pebbles, some flat stones and some water. I've got water here in a watering can to show you as an example as we fill it, but you may just want to let your micro pond fill up with natural rainwater. So the first thing to do, and the most important thing to do, is to find the right space for your pond. Now you want to make sure that your pond is at ground level. Remember, we want to attract wildlife, so if you're thinking about hedgehogs or frogs, they're not going to be able to climb up into anything, or it's unlikely. They'd rather go for the easy things that are at ground level. So don't put your pond up in a raised bed or up on a patio. Try and find somewhere at ground level in a flower bed, just like this. Another great thing as well is just to give it a little bit of coverage. So some foliage that's around there, there can be plants or flowers. And then the next thing which is important is the size of your container. So your space has got to fit your container. So if you've got a small garden, use a small container, find a small space. If you've got the luxury of a bigger garden, then maybe a bigger container, but just check that it fits first of all. So once you've got a space, you're just going to lay your container down like so, and then it's going to be time to dig. So I'm just going to take my trowel and I'm going to begin just by making a mark all the way around my pond, like so. Like that, then I can take it away and I'm just going to dig it. Now as I dig, what I want you to do is to just pile up all of the loose soil just to one side. So once we've got the pond set and down at ground level, we're just going to backfill the edges using some of the soil that we took out. Trying not to get it in the pond if we can. We'll just bring it around the edges, press it down. So another thing that is really, really important when it comes to this stage of your pond is making sure that we have some flat stones that we can put in there to create a platform so that the wildlife can get in and out of the pond. These sides are very, very steep, and if a small mouse or a shrew was to fall into that, it might not get out. So it's really important that we create an entry and an exit space, which is why we got these nice flat rocks. So I'm just going to lay them inside the pond. I'm going to create some steps as we go along. Just like so. So that means that any wildlife can come along and can get in and out of the pond easily. Next thing to do is to start to just decorate a little bit around the edges. So if you want to add a few little extras as well, we can always have a fairy water slide, and we can have a little fairy keeping watch as well, just like so. So now all that's left to do is add the water. Look at that, perfect. So now we can just sit back and watch and try and identify what comes along into our pond. So there we have it, micro ponds, a really simple, really easy, really cheap way to bring the magic of water into your garden. There's something really special about having a water feature in your garden for us in terms of sitting and just being with water. But it's also really, really, really valuable for wildlife. A lot of our UK wildlife sadly is in decline, and if we can help by making our gardens as wildlife friendly as possible, then we should do that. So planting particular plants for bees and butterflies is really, really important, but adding a water feature can make a huge difference. I've mentioned hedgehogs and frogs and birds, but also dragonflies and other kind of insects will come to your pond. And if we attract insects to our garden, then we will attract birds, and then we will attract more mammals as well. So adding a pond is the base layer of starting to create a thriving ecosystem in your garden. So I hope you've enjoyed that. Put some pictures of your own little ponds below. We would love to see them. A little bit of a disclaimer though as well. If you start to make your ponds bigger and bigger and bigger, just be aware that they can become a hazard for people as well, especially small children. So if so, make sure you speak to your children about that and about pond safety. But keep them small, and it'll work wonders for wildlife and for your well-being too. So I hope you've enjoyed this edition of We Be Kids. We'll see you again next time. Bye.